Hey everyone, my name is Anne and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to crochet this checker stitch sweater. I'll be making a small here, but you can find sizes X small to 3X large in this tutorial and also in the written pattern that I have linked down below. But here are the supplies you're going to be needing. So here are all of the supplies you're going to be needing for this project. Here is the yarn that I'm using. I have white, black, and dark gray of this Craft Smart Value yarn. Once you have your yarn, you're also going to need a ruler as well as a 5.5mm hook. You're also going to need a large tapestry needle. And lastly, you can just grab any kind of pair of scissors you have on hand. Once you have all the supplies ready, we're going to go ahead and get started on working on the pattern. So getting started on this pattern, we're going to begin on the body section, and that's going to be with our plaid stitch. So because this pattern involves 3-color yarn, which is our black yarn, our gray yarn, and our white yarn, for this I did notice that the black yarn didn't really show up on camera. So instead of using the black yarn, I'm actually going to show you guys a sample piece with the brown yarn instead. But just keep in mind when I'm using this brown yarn, it's really the black yarn. So getting started, we're first going to make a slip knot, and you can do this any way you would like. After this slip knot, you want to do a chain of 115, but again, I'm actually not going to be doing the full length. I'm just going to be showing you guys a small sample for the body section at least. But to make a chain, you simply want to yarn over and just pull through. Again, yarn over and pull through until you have a total of 115. Once you have finished your chain of 115, beginning on row 1, we're going to skip this first chain and inserting a hook into this second chain. We're going to work single crochets into each all the way down our row. To show you guys how to work a single crochet, simply insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Doing the same thing again, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2. Now just continue to work these single crochets into each chain all the way across your work. After you have finished working these single crochets into each chain all the way across your row, you want to chain 1 and turn your work. This chain 1 never counts as a stitch for the rest of the pattern. Now moving on to row 2, into this first stitch, we're going to work a double crochet. To work a double crochet, simply yarn over, insert your hook into this first stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. You also want to make a double crochet into the next stitch as well. So you can just yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. Now into this next stitch, we're actually going to be changing our color. And to change color, I'm just going to have my medium color on hand. And what we're going to do is just yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And now you want to stop when you have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over with your next color and then pull it through those 2 loops. Just like this, and we are going to be carrying our yarn throughout this pattern. So we're going to double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So I'm just going to yarn over, insert my hook, pull up, once you worked 2 double crochets into this third double crochet, we're going to change our color back to the darkest color. So again, you just want to yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Once you have these 2 loops on your hook, I'm actually going to drop the medium color yarn and then yarn over with the black color and pull through both of those loops to change color. Now you want to repeat this process, working 2 double crochets, change color, 2 double crochets, change color into each stitch all the way down your row until the end. But since I'm just doing a small sample, I'm going to show you guys the last 6 stitches of my row. So once again, I'm going to work 2 double crochets, into this 3rd double crochet. I'm going to change my color, work 2 double crochets, now into this very 3rd stitch, you're actually not going to be changing your color. We're just going to work 1 regular double crochet into this very last stitch. And once you have reached the end of your row, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Moving on to row 3, into this 1st stitch, we're going to work 2 double crochets. So here's my 1st double crochet, and then here is my 2nd. Into this 3rd stitch, we're going to change our color back to the darkest. Just like this, and then once again, work 2 double crochets and change your color. And then I'm going to change my color. So once you have finished alternating your 2 colors, just as we did for the previous row, the only difference between this row and the last row is that into this last stitch, we're actually going to be changing our color to the lightest color that I have on hand. So into this last stitch, I'm just going to yarn over, insert my hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And now I'm actually going to be yarning over with my lightest color and then pulling through both of those loops. With the white color, chain 1 and turn. So moving on to row 4, this is very similar to what we were doing before. Into this 1st stitch, we're first going to work 2 double crochets with our light color. So that's 1, and then here is 2. Now into that 3rd stitch, we're going to alternate with our darkest color, which is the black color. So I'm going to alternate my black color and then work 2 stitches. Once you have worked these 2 stitches, once again change your color to the lightest color. And then work another 2 stitches. Just keep on doing this all the way down your row. So I have just finished working all the way down my row, and just as we did for the 2nd row, we are not going to be changing our color into this last stitch. We're just going to work 1 regular double crochet, then chain and turn your work. Moving on to our last row, which is row 5. So far for the 2nd and 3rd row, we alternated our darkest color and our medium color. For row 3, we have alternated our darkest color and our lightest color. And now for our last row, we are once again going to alternate our darkest color and our lightest color. So into this 1st stitch, I'm going to work 2 double crochets. And then into this 3rd stitch, we're going to once again change our color to that light color. just like this. Work 2 more double crochets. Once you have finished working all the way across your row and you have the last stitch at the end of your row, we're going to change color to our darkest color. Just like this, and then of course you just want to chain 1 and turn. So now to continue the body portion, you want to repeat row 2 to row 5, those last 4 rows with our plaid stitch pattern until you have a total of 49 rows. But just to quickly recap with you guys, the second and third row we alternated our darkest color and our medium color, and then row 5 and row 6 we alternated our lightest color and our darkest color. And you just want to keep on repeating these 4 rows until you have a total of 49 rows. So I'm going to work up my body portion and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done. So guys, I am back here with my body portion. I repeated those last 4 rows with our plaid stitch. And you can see now that I alternated my black color instead of that brown color. And I have a total of 49 rows. It is quite large, so it doesn't totally fit on camera. But once you have your body portion, we're now going to continue to working the first front panel. So you do not want to cut and fasten off just yet. We're actually going to continue directly to working that first front panel in our armholes. So let's move on with those steps. So getting started on working the first front panel, I have already chained and turned my work. Now beginning on row 1, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to work our regular stitch pattern, which in this case is going to be alternating our darkest color and our medium color. And you want to do that until you have 27 stitches in total. So you're not going to be working all the way across your row, you're only going to be doing 27 stitches. So I'm going to work that up and then I will meet you guys back once I have reached that end. So I have just finished working up my 27 stitches all the way across my row. Once I have these 27 stitches, I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. So I have just finished working up my 27 stitches all the way across my row. Once I have these 27 stitches, I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. So for this first row, depending on what size you are working, you're either going to end on the dark color like I did, or you're going to be ending on your medium color. Basically, the difference between our two sizes is that if you're doing sizes small like me, large, and 2X large, you want to follow the pattern that I'm going to be doing with you guys right now. However, if you're doing any of the other 4 sizes, you're literally just going to repeat the same pattern that we did for our body. The reason why it is different is because for this row we started on the darkest color row and then we ended on the darkest color row. But the original pattern, you actually wanted to start with the darkest row and actually end with the medium color. So if you're doing those other 4 sizes, then it is the same exact thing that we were doing. However, if you're doing sizes small like me, large, and 2X large, you want to follow along with this pattern. But basically you want to work, once we get to the end of this, you want to have 9 rows in total. So I'm going to be showing you those next 3 rows for our repeat. So beginning into this first stitch, we're going to first work our 2 stitches, and then we're simply going to change color to our medium color. And then go ahead, work 2 more stitches. And then change color. So you probably guessed it, we're just going to do the same repeat pattern with those 6 stitches into each stitch across, except we are going to be changing color into this last stitch this time. So once you have finished working all the way across your row, just as I mentioned before, into this last stitch we are going to be changing color, and we're going to change our color to the lightest color. After that, just chain 1 and turn. Now moving on to row 3, we're going to do that same thing. We're going to work 2 double crochets. And this time we're going to change our color to our darkest color once you reach that 3rd stitch. Just like this, and then work 2 more stitches. And change your color back to this lightest color. Same thing as last time, you want to repeat the 6 stitch pattern all the way across your row, except we are not going to be changing color into that last stitch as we did for the previous row. So I just finished working all the way across my row. As you guys can see, I did not change color into this last stitch. Instead, I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. Moving on to row 4, which is our last repeat row. Into this first stitch, we're going to once again work those 2 first double crochets, and then change your color to the darkest color. Work 2 more stitches and change back to your lightest color into that 3rd stitch. Repeat doing this pattern all the way across your row. Once you have finished working across your row into this last stitch, we are going to be changing our color back to our darkest color. And then of course, chain 1 and turn your work. So to continue this pattern for our first front panel, you want to repeat those last 4 rows as I just showed you until you have a total of 9 rows for your front panel. So I'm just going to quickly work up my 9 rows in total, and then I'm going to see you guys back to cut and fasten off. So I have just finished up working my first front panel. I have 9 rows in total, and I repeated row 1 through row 4. Once I reached the end, I did go ahead, cut and fasten off, and that is the end of our front panel. Now that we have this all done, we're going to be moving on to the back panel, which is going to be larger than our front panel. So let's go ahead and get started on working on the back panel. So now we're going to get started on working the back panel. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make a slip knot with my medium color yarn. From here, we have this worked stitch, so into the next stitch, which is going to be our first unworked stitch, you want to insert your hook right into that unworked stitch, just like this. Once you have that secure, you can just yarn over, pull through everything. So that is our slip stitch. From here, chain 1. Now, beginning into this first stitch, we're going to work 2 double crochets. And then we're going to change our color to the darkest color. You could probably guess that by now. So just have my darkest color. Yarning over, continuing that same pattern that we were doing for the bottom, or for the body portion, sorry. Working the next 2 stitches. And then changing color back to that medium color. Now you want to repeat doing this stitch pattern until you have 60 stitches across your row. So once again, you should not be going all the way across. You should get near the end. You should have 27 stitches left at the end of your row once you have worked into those 60 stitches. But I'm going to go ahead, work that up, and then I will meet you guys back once I reach the end. So I have now finished working my 60 rows, and I started over here with the medium color, then I went all the way across and I ended with the black color. So from here, I feel like you guys already have a good feel for the pattern. You just want to basically continue the stuff that we were doing for the bodice and do that until you have a total of 9 rows. That's the same amount of rows that we did for the front panel. So yeah, I'm just going to continue on with that regular stitch pattern I've been showing you guys, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done with the back panel. So I have made it back here with my back panel. We started in the next unworked stitch, and then we went 60 stitches all the way back to the other side. As you guys can see, I did 9 rows in total, continuing the same pattern that we did for the body. Now that we have our first front panel, our back panel, the last thing that we're going to be working on for the main bodice section is going to be the second front panel into this next same stitches, which is very similar to the first front panel. But let's just go ahead and get started on working the second front panel. So now we're going to get started on working the second front panel. I have my medium color yarn and I'm going to go ahead and make a slip knot. Same thing that we did for our back panel. We're just going to insert our hook right into the next unworked stitch. Just like this. Once you have inserted your hook, you can go ahead, yarn over, pull through everything. That is a slip stitch to secure. From here, we can just chain 1. Beginning into this first stitch is just going to be the same pattern that we worked on this side. We're going to first work 2 double crochets. And then into that third stitch, we're going to alternate working our medium color and our dark color. And then just do that all the way across your row. Same as last time, I'm not going to show you guys this entire pattern because we basically already worked it on camera. I'll just get you guys started and then I'll just go off from there. Once you have reached the very end of your row, you can just chain 1 and turn your work. But once again, I'm just going to get this first row started with you guys. So we just inserted our hook into this next stitch and then worked all the way across your row. You should have a total of 27 stitches, which is the same amount of stitches that I had for my first front panel. So once again, just continue up working that same stitch pattern, alternating your 4 repeat rows until you have 9 rows in total, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done with my 9 rows and I'll show you the next steps. And then I'll just Alrighty guys, so I have just finished up working my second front panel. I now have 9 rows in total, repeating that same pattern that we did last time. So far we have our second front panel, our back panel, and then we also have our first front panel. Once we have all of this work done, we are now going to set our bodice aside, and we're actually going to get started on working on the sleeves, and then we're going to seam up all of the pieces at the end together. But I'm just going to fold this up, set it aside, and then we're going to jump on and get started on working the sleeves. So now we're going to be moving on to working the sleeves. I have my darkest color yarn, and I'm first going to make a slip knot as usual. Once you have your slip knot, you can go ahead and make a chain of 38. Once you have finished up working your chain of 38, what we're going to do now is just run our fingers all the way down the chain to make sure that it's not twisted. Then we are going to slip stitch into this very first chain that we made. So I'm just going to yarn over, pull through everything. Now you should have formed a very large loop. From here, we are just going to chain 1 and turn our work. Moving on to row 1, beginning into this first chain, we are simply going to work double crochets into each chain all the way around. So I'm going to work these double crochets up, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I reach the end. As you guys can see, I have finished working these double crochets all the way around my chain. Once you reach the end of each row, you just want to slip stitch into this first stitch, just like this, and then just slip stitch to pull through. And that's how we're going to join each row. From here, I'm just going to chain 1 and turn my work. Now moving on to row 2. Skipping this first turning chain and inserting our hook into this first stitch, we're simply going to double crochet into each stitch all the way around. And same thing that we did last time, you just want to slip stitch into that first stitch to join, which I'm going to show you guys how to do one more time. So I have just finished working these double crochets once again all the way around my row, and just as we did last time, you want to slip stitch into this first stitch, just like this, chain 1 and turn your work. Now to continue this pattern for our sleeve, you want to repeat this row, which is row 2, until you have a total of 25 rows for your sleeve. However, you can make this sleeve however long or short you would like. I'm just going to make a 3/4 sleeve to a full length sleeve, so I'm going to do 25 rows. But yeah, I'm going to work up my double crochet rows, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done. So once you have finished working your 25 rows for your sleeve, we now are going to move on to row 26, and this is going to be the very last row, which is going to be a decrease row. So as you guys can see, I have already chained and turned my work. Now for this decrease row, we are simply going to work decreases into every single stitch all the way around. To work a double crochet decrease, I have already chained, turned my work. So to do a decrease, you just want to yarn over, insert your hook into that first stitch, pull up a loop, into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3, yarn over, pull through 2. Doing this again, you want to yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3, and yarn over, pull through 2. Now just repeat doing these double crochet decreases into each pair of stitches all the way around. Once you reach the end, slip stitch into that first stitch to join, and then you can cut and fasten off once you have completed your work. Alrighty guys, so I have just finished working up my last decrease row for my sleeve. This decrease row just nicely pinched in our work, which is exactly what we wanted to do. Once you have made both of your sleeves, you want to repeat this process a second time. We're now going to move on to working on the cuffs. So let's go ahead and get started on working on the cuffs. So now we're going to begin working on the cuffs, which is very simple. We're first going to make that slip knot. And then once you have made the slip knot, go ahead and make a chain of 19. Once you have finished up working your chain of 19, beginning into the second chain, you just want to double crochet into each chain all the way across until the end. Once you have finished working up this row of double crochets, I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. Moving on to row 2, into this first post we are going to work a front post double crochet. To work a front post double crochet, just yarn over with your hook, insert your hook right behind this first post, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Now into the next stitch, instead of doing a front post, we're actually going to be doing a back post, which is very similar. You want to yarn over, insert your hook right behind, just like this, pull through 2, and pull through 2. And to the next stitch, we're going to do another front post double crochet. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, pull through, 2 and 2. Into the next stitch, we're going to do another back post double crochet. Now repeat, alternating doing front post and back post double crochets until you have worked all the way across your row, and then chain 1 and turn your work. Once you have reached the end of row 1, I'm just going to chain and turn. Moving on to row 2, this row is basically the same thing, just a little bit different. Into this first stitch, instead of starting off with a front post double crochet, we're actually going to be starting off with a back post double crochet. So again, just inserting my hook right behind that post, and then just completing this back bar double. Into the next stitch, work a front post double, and then a back post double, front post, and then just keep on alternating your front and back posts all the way down your row. And then as you guys can see, I have just finished working all the way down my row. Now to continue this pattern for our cuff, you want to repeat alternating row 2 and row 3 until you have a total of 6 rows for your cuff. Then you can make this however long or short you would like. But I'm just going to work up my 6 rows with these back posts and these front post double crochets, and then I'm going to see you guys back for the next steps. So once you have finished working up your 6 rows for your cuff, this is what it's looking like so far. We are now going to make a second cuff because we have 2 sleeves, of course, and once we have both of the sleeves, the cuffs, and all of our bodice portion, we're now going to move on to assembling everything together. So now that is the next step. Let's go ahead and move on. So now we're going to be moving on to the assembly process. Over here I have my bodice. So this is the back panel, this is the first front panel, and the second front panel. And this is what it is looking like. Once you have all this folded together, we're now going to seam together both of the shoulder straps. So I'm going to start from this very corner, whip stitch all the way across, doing that on the other side as well. Just starting to this very top corner, whip stitching all the way across, and that is all we're going to do for the seaming, and then we'll do the cuffs and sleeves later. To whip stitch is very simple. I have my tapestry needle and my darkest color yarn, and what I'm going to do here is just insert my hook into the back loop of the first stitch, and then into the back loop of the back panel and just pull through. Doing this again, I'm just going to insert my hook into the back bar, into the next back bar, and just pull straight through. Into the next 2 stitches, just like this. So now you just want to continue on whip stitching just as I am doing here, across the first front panel and then the second front panel. Once you have both of your panels seamed up, you also want to go ahead and whip stitch your sleeve and your cuff together. So I have my cuff, I'm simply just going to fold it together, and then just whip stitch it all the way along the edge of your sleeve. Do that for both sleeves and both cuffs. Once you have that complete, the very last thing you want to seam together is you want to attach the sleeve to the armhole. So this should be about a 6.5 inch armhole, and it should fit perfectly in place. And you just want to place your sleeve around the edge, whip stitch together, and that's all you want to do. Do that on both sides. And then I'm just going to work up all of that stuff I just showed you, both the shoulder straps and everything, and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done, and then after that all we have left are the front borders and the bottom borders. Alright guys, so I have made it back here with my work all seamed up. I did both of the shoulder straps, as you guys can see. I also did both of the sleeves and the cuffs, attached it to my bodice as well. Did that on both sides. Now that we have everything all seamed up, we're going to move on to our next step, which is going to be working the bottom border. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So now we're going to get started on working the bottom border, and this is basically the same thing that we did for our cuff. The first thing I'm going to do, of course, is just make that slip knot. After that, we're going to insert our hook right into the first stitch. You can do that on either corner, and slip stitch to secure. And now just keep on repeating these back post and front post double crochets all the way around the bottom edge until you have reached the opposite corner, and then you can just chain one and turn your work once you reach the end. So I have just finished alternating my front and back post double crochets, coming all the way along the bottom border until I reach the opposite corner. Once you do that, you can go ahead, chain one, and turn your work. So to continue this pattern, you want to repeat row 1 until you have a total of 4 rows for your bottom border. However, you can make this however long or short you would like. The reason why we're only repeating row 1 is because this time, unlike the cuff, we just have an even number of stitches, so it works out perfectly. I'm going to do 3 more rows for my border, and then I'll see you guys back to cut and fasten off. So I have just finished up working my 4 rows for my bottom border. As you guys can see, I cut and fastened off once I reached the end. Now that we have our bottom border all done, we're going to work on doing our front border. So our front border is just going to be a little bit different because we're going to be working double crochets on the side of our rows instead of in stitches. First thing I'm going to do is just insert my hook right into the corner, just like this, slip stitch to secure. Now for each double crochet row, you want to be working 2 stitches per row. So I'm going to go across the border and then I'm going to show you guys what I mean by working 2 stitches. So into this first row, I'm going to work 1 double crochet, and then a second double crochet evenly spaced, and then into the next row I'm going to work a double crochet, and then another double crochet evenly spaced. So now that I've made it to the main stitch pattern, I'm going to show you guys how to work these double crochets. So into this very first row, once again, I'm going to work 2 stitches. So that's my first double crochet, and then here's my second double crochet into that same row. Looking at the next row, I'm going to work 1 double crochet, and then a second double crochet. I'm going to do this one more time with you guys. I'm going to work 1, and then here's 2. Just like this. Now just keep on working these double crochets on the side of your rows until you went all the way up and all the way around until you have reached the opposite corner on this side, and then chain 1 and turn your work. But I'm going to do that foundation row and then I'll see you guys back once I reach the end. So I have made it back here, guys, with my border. The first thing that I did was that I double crocheted that foundation row going all the way up and all the way around until I reached the opposite corner over here. And since I already showed you guys this on camera, literally all I did was just alternate those back and front post double crochets as we did for the cuff, as we did for the bottom border, and I just did 1 more row. However, you can make this however thick you would like as usual. So basically I just have the foundation row and then that 1 row, and that's all I did. I cut and fastened off once I reached the end of that border. But yeah, that is all you guys have to do for your cardigan. That is basically it. The last thing you would need to do is just weave in all of your loose ends to finish. But yeah, that is the end of the tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I'll see you guys back next time. Bye! If you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. If you bought this pattern, it would be super helpful if you left a positive review. But that's all, guys. Bye!